Men think that seven figures and earning all this money is going to fix their internal chaos, but it actually magnifies it. Because as you go and you work towards making all this money, if you have a bunch of internal chaos on the path, you're going to amplify it over time. It's not just going to solve your problems. I know it because I lived it. I was able to build a company that earned seven figures. I had a seven-figure exit, and it was amazing. Like, I built this company from the ground up on my own. It was a beautiful thing. But in the process of building it, when I was going through it, I was suffering a lot from anxiety and some other issues and a lot of internal chaos. So there's some beautiful moments in there, but I'll just be raw and honest. It was hard and it was a grind. And even after I exited, I was still suffering from that chaos. And it took me a while to really get myself to a level that made any sort of sense to me. I had to rebuild myself from the ground up. Now, I shared a story on this where I went through Ezekiel 32 in the Bible, and I'll link to that in the description. And there's other areas where I've talked a little bit about my story before. And by the way, if you want to get more, go to my free school community in the description. And I have some free courses in there, free resources, and a lot more stuff that goes in a lot more depth to help you here. So just that's all there for you. Again, it's in the description. But the thing is, there's a lot of men who suffer silently, and there's also a lot of men who fall into a success trap. Me, I did both, right? I was suffering silently, and I was just basically structuring my business and everything with golden handcuffs. And I go into that in some other videos as well. So I'm not going to go into that too much here. But what I will tell you is this. When I was in my 20s, I was not spiritual. When I was a teenager, I walked away from God. I was raised Catholic. I'm not Catholic anymore. I'm a Protestant Christian. But when I was growing up, I was Catholic, and I just, no offense against Catholicism, but just the way that I was raised with it was just not really like teaching me, I think, what it means to be a Christian. There was a lot of guilt and shame and a lot of stuff that I just didn't like with how I was personally exposed to it. I'm not saying that all Catholicism is like that or anything like that. Just my personal experience with what I was raised like was like that. So it left me feeling just not very excited about the church. And I walked away from God. I didn't believe in God anymore. And I lived as an atheist for a long time, for like 15 years. And during that time, I still had good values, and I still was a good person and had good values, but I didn't have God in my purpose, right? I just didn't. And so the way I thought about things was in a different sort of secular manner. My purpose wasn't really tied in with something bigger than me. And it led to me feeling lost a lot, just feeling totally just lost. Like I just didn't have a guide. I felt like I was on my own. I didn't feel like I had a mentor that I could look up to. I built this amazing business, but I just suffered from a lot of internal friction and anxiety because I didn't have that North Star, that guiding light to really help me. And that is so crucial. And I see this all the time. A lot of people that don't have that, they end up living this life where they have all these God substitutes. Like they start to be almost worshiping their political opinions or stuff like that. And that's not going to give you what you're really looking for. I've met so many atheists or agnostic people who are just seeking, and they're seeking in the wrong place. And it's like God is right there available to us all the time. And I remember when I finally found my spirituality again, and I realized that it was kind of sad in a way because I had lived for so long without God, and I was just like, what was I doing? Like, I had a home all along. I had a rock all along that was available to me, that was just there, that I could have accessed at any point when I was having all that chaos. And I had so much suffering that I went through. And yes, I made all this money, and that was great. But there was a lot of things that could have been so much better. I could have had some better relationships along the way. I probably would have done things a little bit differently with how I exited my business and what the process was that I went through and what that would have looked like. And also, even after all that, just the way that things went down in my personal life and personal relationships, there's so much that was just misaligned and it was rough. And I had a lot of internal friction. There was a lot of things like it was hard. It's hard to do identity work when you don't have spirituality. It really is because you don't have like the purpose isn't really there, or you're at least you're trying to create a purpose, but it's like you can still have a purpose, but it's harder for it to really be powerful for you. It just is. And that's been my experience and so many of the experiences of people that I've talked with. And so the anxiety piece of it was a big one. I had all this anxiety during those times, right? I had all this anxiety, and it's because of what I talked about in that last video where I did talk about Ezekiel 32 and what was going on there. I was just relying on the power of man and didn't have the power of God as a guiding principle. I didn't have something larger than me. I just didn't. And I'm just being honest with it. It's kind of sad and it is hard to reflect on it sometimes, but I have to be honest with it. I wish that I didn't walk away from God for all those years. I really do. My life would have went a lot different, a lot more smoothly. Now, of course, I still would have had challenges. Everyone does. But it would have been significantly easier. And when I found my spirituality again, everything started to shift in my life. And it's truly remarkable. The things that were hard in my life started to fall away. And I went through some serious turmoil. I'm not going to even exaggerate because I found my spirituality before my divorce. It was actually part of what led towards my divorce because I was not really aligned with my ex-wife anymore. There's a lot of things that started to be misaligned, and that's totally okay. It's no hard feelings. It's all good. It was all meant to happen. And so as I found my spirituality and I found my rock and started to find my purpose, started to build a new foundation and create a new structure, really shift my identity, do all this identity work. I used to be such an anxious person, but as I did all this stuff and I shifted, I went through some hardship that then everything got more easeful. And my life now is so good. It's truly a blessing. I'm grateful every single day. And I will tell you, I used to be such an anxious person. I used to think that my anxiety was like my superpower. Somehow my anxiety was making me successful because I was so diligent and I was whatever. And it's funny because I still am someone who does take care of things. I take care of business. I handle things quickly. I have a high sense of urgency and stuff, but I'm not doing it in a way that's like highly anxious and toxic anymore and hurting my body. I was so anxious that it was starting to manifest in my body, like my upper left shoulder, like between my shoulder, like right up here, between my shoulder blade and my neck. That area between my shoulder blade and my neck, on my upper left side, and on my upper left side near my lat, like it was all tense. Like I remember I would go to massage therapists and they're like, man, I don't even know. You got like this mass in there. I can't really release it. I was getting massage therapy all the time. I was doing all this stuff. It was literally manifesting in my body. And when I stopped being an anxious person, when I let that fall away from my identity and I realized that I'm actually not an anxious person, that doesn't have to be part of my identity. When I truly worked on it and changed that tension fell away. I don't have a mass there anymore. It went away on its own. It just went away. I had massage therapists who could not fix this problem. People that were just like, I've never seen this. Like, this is crazy. You have like this cluster of muscles and knots and all this stuff. It went away on its own with me not doing literally anything besides relieving anxiety. It was that level though. Like it was chronic. I really did have serious anxiety. And I want to talk about this because I only used neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, and spirituality to relieve it. That's the tools I used. I would, I meditate and pray. That's part of it, of course. But overall, it just came down to actually shifting things in my identity, in my experiences, the experiences that I used in my self-concept. All this stuff was part of the process. Funny enough, I was doing this work without knowing what it was called. So I didn't actually know that I was doing NLP. I was doing this work on myself and I didn't have a name for it. It was just, I just considered it like self improvement work. I was trying out all these different things. I was doing all this stuff. And then eventually I started to come up with things that were actually working for me, actually shifting. And eventually I actually came across NLP and was like, this is interesting. I'm going to look into this. Started researching and I'm like, this is what I've been doing. So then I was like, okay, now I have a name for it and I could take this further. So then I started studying it, learning it, became a certified master in it. And I realized, okay, now I have a better framework for how to actually do this work with other people. I got even better at it. And it's been such a godsend in my life, such a blessing. And it's just amazing to help people transform and shift their identity like this. And it's just something that I didn't even realize was possible. I tried all the other stuff that's out there. I tried all the, manifestation and, affirmations and, vision boards and all these things. The only practice that really did help was visualization. And the funny part about that is because is that visualization is a huge part of NLP work. Not the way that it's usually taught, but it is actually part of it. So it's funny that that's like the one thing that actually did help, but it got way better when I started doing visualization from a more like NLP style, because then it actually became real, not just some made up fantasy thing. It became real because it was rooted in my real experiences. And that's the beauty of this. With the work that you can do with NLP, spirituality, through the Bible, you can basically do this in a way that stays authentic the whole time. There's no faking it. And that's the truth here. You can get through the success trap. You can get through all the silent suffering because you have a rock. You have a rock in Jesus. You have connection to God. You have access to the Holy Spirit. It's always there with you. You don't have to be alone. And there's a brotherhood out there for you. I have one. It's in the description in my school community. It's a brotherhood of men who are all connecting this way. It's out there. I created all this stuff because I didn't want other men to be suffering silently alone. That's why this is here. That's why I'm sharing all of this, because it's part of my purpose to help as many people as I possibly can so that they don't suffer silently, live the way that I did. I mean, if you look into any of the stats that men struggle with, I'm not going to go into all the details because of, content restrictions that might come up or censorship flags and all that, but the stats are not super favorable for men. A lot of men are suffering silently alone, and they don't need to be. And you can have real change. You don't have to identify with your anxiety. You don't have to have a massive amount of internal friction that leads you to be burnt out. You don't have to struggle with discipline. It's all there for you and accessible. Anyway, that's all I want to share on this one. If you have any questions, drop a comment below and I'm happy to respond to all those. Definitely subscribe to the channel and I will see you all in the next one.